Hey everyone, this is Eliza from Dusk Reads, and today I'll be doing my April wrap-up. I will do these in order of how I read them, however I'll split up the audiobooks with the actual books. So first I read Hero at the Fall by ALWYN Hamilton. Sorry, this book is probably reflecting really badly, but this is the third book in the Rebel of the Sand series, which is one of my favourite series ever, and this book was bloody amazing. So I can't tell you much about this book as it is the third book and I don't want to spoil the first two, but Rebel of the Sands is about this girl who grew up in this dead ass town in the middle of the desert, and she basically just wants to escape, and she meets this stranger and happens to escape on this mythical horse, and it just snowballs from there. Yeah, like I said, this is like one of my favorite series ever, and I do have a full spoiler-free review for this one up on my blog, which I will be linking below. The next book I have is The Trials of Morrigan Crow by Jessica Townsend. This is the first book in the Nevermore series. This one I did enjoy, but it was like a bit all over the place. Like, it wasn't my absolute favourite book, and when I sat down to write my review for it, I just couldn't do it because I'm just like, I don't know what I feel. Like, it was enjoyable, but it was also not fabulous. But I know a lot of people are loving it, and a lot of people actually comparing it to Harry Potter, which is one of my all-time favourite series. Well, not one of my, it is my all-time favourite series. So comparing this to Harry Potter, I don't agree. Like, it is a really cool book and it's got an awesome magic system, but the magic system isn't really explained. It's kind of like all over the place and confusing. So I don't compare it to Harry Potter, but it is still an interesting read. The next book I read was GRAEVALE by LYNETTE NONI. This is the fourth book in the MORRIGAN Chronicles, which is another one of my all-time favourite series. However, this one isn't all out yet. They still have, I think, one more book, and there's also like a little novella type thing coming out at the end of this year. I really love the main character in this book. Alex is awesome, and the friendship between her, DC Bear, and Jordan is absolutely amazing. They're like one of my favourite friend groups in a book that I've ever read. They are just awesome, and I love seeing a bit more of them in this book. In Dracora, which is the book before this one, we mainly saw Alex as there was something that happened that the other three weren't involved in, but I can't really talk much about it as it is the third book, and well, this is the fourth book in the series, but it is amazing. I can't talk much about what this one's about as it is the fourth book, but Akane, the first book, is about this girl who goes to this school and she doesn't feel like she fits in to everyone, and she opens this door to, I think she's meant to go see the principal or something, and she opens this door and finds herself in the middle of a forest. So yeah, it is a portal fantasy, and I know a couple people have compared it to Harry Potter, but nowhere near. Harry Potter is not a portal fantasy. I hate to enlighten you guys, but the wizards live amongst the muggles. It is not like you go through a door and you're in this completely different world. That is not what Harry Potter is. So yeah, this is a portal fantasy and it is so good. The world is amazing. The magic system is so interesting. The characters are so fully developed. It is great. The next book I read is The Continent by KIERA Drake, and it is an eARC that I received through NetGalley. It's about this girl who, for her birthday, she receives this ticket to go over to this island that is called the Continent. On the continent there is these two races that are fighting, like they're in war. She goes on this trip where they basically tour in a plane around the continent, like over the top of the continent, and then shit goes wrong. She finds herself on the continent and it just like kind of goes from there. The book wasn't like amazing. I do have a full spoiler-free review up on my blog, which I'll link below, but it's not amazing. Like, it's extremely predictable, especially the first part of the book. Like, I know it's kind of in the synopsis that something goes wrong, that she ends up on the continent, but the way that they go about it, well, the way the author goes about it, it is so obvious. And I did speak about this in my Instagram feed if you did see that, but just the predictability was like mind-blowing. I've never read a book that is so predictable. Yeah, onto a more positive note, the next book I read was Renegades by MARISSA MEYER, and I did really enjoy this one. I kind of found the start pretty slow. Like, the first 200 pages I wasn't really connecting with it, but I stuck through it because it was the book of the month for the book group that I run on Facebook, the YA Book Nerds, so I had to read it so that I could write the discussion questions. So I just kept pushing through it, and the last like 300 pages was really good. So I did enjoy myself in the end, but yeah, that first 200 pages I did struggle getting into. You've probably heard what this one is about, but Renegades is about these two groups, the anarchists and the renegades. The anarchists are kind of like the bad guys and the renegades are the good guys, and we follow the main character, well, one of the main characters from who is an anarchist, and she infiltrates the renegades by becoming one of them and getting close to the son of one of the leaders. Now onto the audiobooks that I read in April. I did read a lot more audiobooks than I did ebooks. I read a total of 9 audiobooks. The first one I read was Reign of Shadows by Sophie Jordan. This one was a really interesting audiobook. I really enjoyed it, and it's basically a Rapunzel retelling, but it's in this really dark world. Basically only 1 hour of the day has daylight, the rest of the time it's night, and there's these creatures that come out in the dark and basically kill everyone. And it's about this girl who lives in a tower because she's Rapunzel, and as you can imagine, being a Rapunzel retelling, she's also the secret heir to the throne. And yeah, it's about her journey when she's leaving the tower because something happens, she has to leave, and it's about her journey with this stranger who she met and how she escapes. And again, this one ended really abruptly. Like, it kind of just ended when you're in the middle of a scene and you're like, wait, what the fuck just happened? And I do have the second book on my Scribed app, but I haven't got around to reading it yet, but it ends on a cliffhanger type thing. The next audiobook I read was Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. As I've said in my May TBR, I just continue reading the Harry Potter books on audio. They just keep going around and I just keep listening to them. So yeah, this time I read Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. The next book I listened to was an Agatha Christie book, Five Little Pigs, and I won't go into any details about what it's about because I don't like talking about Agatha Christie books. It is a mystery and they are short, so you don't really need to know anything. Just know it's an Agatha Christie mystery and just go into it knowing it's going to be good. I've been really enjoying listening to the Agatha Christie books on audiobook. I really enjoy the narrator. On the first book I listened to, I didn't love the narrator, but he's grown on me after I've listened to a couple now, and I do really enjoy them on audiobook. The next book I read was The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho or something like that. I'm not actually 100% sure how to pronounce his last name, but this one is kind of a classic. Like, I've heard about it a couple times and it is an older book. It's really short. I listened to it on audiobook and I didn't love it. Like, it was a little bit confusing and kind of dull. It was basically this guy who hears this prophecy and goes on this adventure type thing to try and find the treasure. And he meets these people along the way and things happen, and it was just kind of underwhelming. Like, I was expecting like a pretty good book, but it was kind of underwhelming. I did read it for the Magical Readathon, which I still haven't done a wrap up for, but I read it for that because you needed a book that involved a prophecy, and it was a prophecy. Okay, the next book I read was probably one of my favorite audiobooks that I read this month, and it was Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. This book it is a mystery, and so I won't go into details about the plot, but it was so good. The audiobook was really good and I enjoyed it a lot, and I really want to continue on with the series, but I just haven't got around to it. I don't actually know if they're out yet, or if they are, I couldn't find them on Scribed, because otherwise I probably would have like just continued straight away because it was really. The next audiobook I read was Batman Nightwalker by Marie Lu. This one is a really short book. It's a lot shorter than Wonder Woman, which was the first book in the series. I did enjoy it. Like, it wasn't as good as Wonder Woman. It was just kind of like obvious. Like, I don't know how else to describe it, but it was just kind of, this is what I felt like Batman would have been before he started being a superhero. Whereas the Wonder Woman story, I didn't actually, like, I don't know anything about the background, whether there actually is a background for Wonder Woman, but it kind of like blew my mind. Whereas this one was like kind of dull. The next book I read was another Harry Potter book, and it was Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. So yeah, I started and finished listening to this one in April, and I've also picked up Order of the Phoenix. But again, just continue on reading them at all times. I'm reading a Harry Potter book. The next book I picked up, I listened to in a couple hours. It was so good, and it's Quidditch Through the Ages by Kellenworthy Wisp, also J.K. Rowling. But they have released the new audiobook for this one that has the exclusive content that came from Pottermore. So the first part of it was kind of okay, that was what's in this book, and it's just information about Quidditch, how it came to be, information about brooms and the players and the teams and that kind of stuff. That was fine, it was very informative. And then the next part was amazing. I've never actually read the bit that's on Pottermore. I didn't even realise it was a thing. I've read a lot of stuff on Pottermore, but I've never read that. And it's basically the history of Quidditch, and that was really interesting. But the last little bit was the World Cup in 2014, and it is narrated by Ginny Potter and Rita Skeeter, and it was so bloody good. It was really good seeing the original Harry Potter characters back with a little bit extra information that we never got in the books, because this is set like, I don't know how many years after the end. It's in 2014, so it's a fair few years after the end of Harry Potter. But you see Ginny Potter being a reporter about the Quidditch and going through what was happening with all the events in the Quidditch World Cup. And then we get to see Harry and the kids, and Ron and Hermione and their kids, and Neville and Luna and their partners and kids all come back to watch the 2014 Quidditch World Cup. So you have Ginny that is reporting directly about the World Cup and what is happening. And also Crumb comes back. He comes back as a seeker in for the Bulgarian team. So yeah, you have Ginny talking about what actually is happening right now in the Quidditch World Cup. And then you also have Rita Skeeter, who is talking about the gossip, and she's watching Harry and them, and it's like, oh, they're whispering, oh, are they fighting? And it's like, it's just hilarious. Like, Rita Skeeter was a bitch. I couldn't stand her in the books, but it really amused me in this one. So yeah, I did really enjoy it, and I highly recommend picking up the audiobook if you get a chance. Okay, the last audiobook I read was Dragon Keeper by Carol Wilkinson. This is a middle grade. I just saw it on my library app and decided to pick it up. I wasn't enjoying the audiobook that I was listening to, Reign the Earth, and so I decided to pick this one up, and it was really good. It was really fun. Like, it is a middle grade, and it's basically about this girl who was working as a slave in this castle for a really horrible dragon keeper. And they have dragons, they have other animals as well, but they have dragons, and she escapes with one of the dragons, and they go on this adventure to find the ocean, and it was so good. So yeah, let me know in the comments if you have read any of these books and what you thought of them. Also, let me know what you read in April. Please give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you next time.